field. That one's stalled to the right. Hunter on the move, racing back. It's over his head. It's gone. It's into the bullpen. This game is tied. This game is tied. David Ortiz. David Ortiz. David Ortiz.
This is Red Sox Beat on CLNS Radio.
I think it would be a big statement if John Farrell started Travis Shaw on opening day, and I'd be totally cool with it, because I think it would. If that doesn't give Sandoval motivation to play better defense and play better, period, nothing will.
I think they're going to make Jeter that first unanimous vote, and I hate that about baseball writers. If you belong in the Hall of Fame, you get voted in the Hall of Fame.
Achievement or a new milestone. They don't just be like, yay, we signed this player, so we're going to have a ceremony. Like, no.
Now, to your hosts.
All right, Red Sox fans, Red Sox Beat here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio and video coverage of New England sports, professional sports, of course, everywhere. Follow CLNS on social media at CLNS Media. Facebook, just search CLNS Media, will pop up there. Don't forget to download the CLNS Media free mobile podcast app for iOS and Android. As far as the show, you all know the drill by now. It's at Red Sox_Beat on Twitter. Facebook, Red Sox Beat Podcast. If you could rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes, that'd be phenomenal. Jess Thomas, Lauren Campbell, and guest this week from Comcast Sportsnet New England, the new face of the Red Sox, Evan Drellich, joins us as well. So a lot going on today. First, we welcome in Evan, of course. Evan, appreciate you joining us. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm not a face of the Red Sox, but I appreciate the
At Comcast you are. At Comcast you are.
That's true. That's good point. Right. It's me, Lou, and Jared. We're one big happy team.
One big Red Sox crew covering the team. No, obviously we appreciate you coming on. Red Sox, aren't playing as well as they were expected to play at this point. I mean, I think you covered the Astros before, correct? So, this is something
yes.
that, you might take this down in Houston for a couple years when you were down there. But, the Red Sox, we expect a lot from them. Obviously, there were high aspirations, as you know, coming into the year. I probably already know your answer to this, and a lot of people probably do, but are you concerned about this team, the way they're playing, the record they have, considering everything that's going on with this team?
Concerned, yes. But there's a difference between concerned and kind of saying that the sky is falling, which I think there's been some of that in the media. And just realistically, this number of games in, we've seen a lot change after this point in the year. You look at some of the stats that would kind of tell you, okay, is this healthy or not? The bottom line, runs haven't been there. The average is there. The on-base percentage is there. The slugging percentage this month, it's middle of the pack. It's .441. That's actually what the Astros are on the season. I think the power is going to come. I know David Ortiz isn't here, but he didn't take away literally everybody else's in the lineup's power when he left, which I think people like to pretend happened. A lot, to me, hinges on David Price. Do you get one of Carson Smith back? Third base has been the worst in the majors, right? No one would argue that. It's just that, if there were one or two wins more on the Red Sox record right now, the conversation would be different. It's that time of year where a couple wins kind of skews the perception in either direction. And if you got some positives in the bullpen, the expectations are very high. I did cover the Astros, but I covered the Red Sox before that. So this is my second time in Boston. So, it's not a matter of kind of tolerance. It's a matter of just kind of perspective on the play. They haven't taken off yet, but I think there's reason to believe they're better than the record shows. That's my bottom line point, as opposed to this team is just not that good. No, they are. They've got holes, but they are actually a pretty good team. Yeah,
and overall, I mean, you look at it on paper, even right now with the injuries they have, they should be better than they're playing. That being said, a lot's come up, and this comes up every year, especially with, the history he has with everything in the background. I'm not going to ask you, are you on this train, but what do you make of the, fire John Farrell train at this point in the year when you hasn't even really had a full roster yet? Because I'm even one who has been calling for John Farrell to be fired, and I'm not even there yet this year because of the situation he's been put in.
My bottom line with the manager has always been that the level of conversation we have about him is way out of whack and disproportionate to the actual impact the guy has, right? Farrell has basically become the go-to for blame when anything goes wrong, even if it has nothing to do with it. In terms of who has more of an impact on this team, it's Dave Dombrowski by a mile. I think if they felt that Farrell didn't have the clubhouse anymore, fire him. Sure. My attitude's always been like, you can do it, but once you do it, you need to know you have somebody, or at least have a very strong feeling of somebody who's better, right? The idea of firing him and then just being like, well, we're just going to change and we're not sure what we're putting in there, that's dangerous, right? You got to at least have somebody you feel good about putting in place. And at that point, all right, do it. It's not going to fix third base. It's not going to fix Drew Pomeranz. In some respect, there's a level of disruption when you change a manager because you're changing the coaching staff. I would have done it in the winter if I was going to do it this early in the year. I think that Dave Dombrowski could do it at any point. I don't feel very strongly about it, I guess, is the bottom line. I don't feel like John Farrell has to stay. I don't think he's really the core problem here at all. Is he the best in-game manager? No, but he's actually done pretty good with the bullpen. If people want to say the manager is important, which, again, I'm not somebody who thinks the importance is that high, well, when the bullpen is doing well, and it's a bullpen that has injuries, you then need to give due credit to the manager. I don't think John Farrell is the reason Joe Kelly's pitching well. I think Joe Kelly's pitching well because Joe Kelly's got a really good fastball, and now he's figuring out how to use it, right? Go back to the playoffs. I think Tito got way more credit. He was willing to be progressive, and he had pitchers who were willing to be progressive. But Andrew Miller, Cody Allen, Shaw, like those guys deserve the bulk of the credit. And I think the narrative became Tito's making that bullpen run. No, the players make this ship run, and people want to bitch and whine about the manager. Forgive my French.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you with Farrell, and I know you mentioned third base a couple of times and kind of the whole debauchery that's going on there. Is this team missing Travis Shaw?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just look at the numbers, and he would be I think he was – I looked it up by Baseball References, wins above replacement. I believe he was 14th. And third base is such a rich position right now, which makes it kind of stand out even more, the fact that the Red Sox are the absolute worst there. You got to see what happens with Sandoval. He's probably a platoon player at best. I think you either go out and get kind of a cheap piece. I don't think you kind of spend your prospect capital on a third baseman. I think starting pitching will probably end up being more important. But I'm also of the opinion we're going to see Devers. Whether or not Devers works out is a different question. But I think sometime in August at the latest he's going to be here. I don't think we'll see him much earlier than that. But it's almost like Moncada last year. Even if you're not sure, is it worth a peek? And that's where kind of the internal talent evaluation becomes important. If they feel confident in Devers, well, then maybe they can do less on the trade market. And again, maybe Sandoval actually does something, but it's hard to put much stock into that, but you're going to get another look at him, assuming he can actually come back healthy.
Yeah, it's funny, Evan. I went on a rant last week. These guys could tell you about how really it shouldn't be Travis Shaw being the problem that we're missing him. Pablo Sandoval is supposed to be the player who's supposed to be there. We shouldn't even be worried about Travis Shaw, but we are worried about Travis Shaw because Sandoval can't even stay on the field.
Yeah.
Well, and this, Dombrowski rightfully has been criticized for depth, and to some degree at third base, it's actually been a little bit blown out of proportion because Brock Holt's health came up, Marco Hernandez's health came up, Josh Rutledge couldn't play the position, Marco Hernandez couldn't play the position. Like you had guys who have a little bit more offensive capability than Devin Marrero, who should be able to play a clean third base or something close to respectable, and didn't. And I wonder if Josh Rutledge went back over there, how would he look? Because there is some intriguing element to his bat, right? He might actually be able to contribute something, and thus far he has, if you look at the numbers. But between the injuries and just players kind of inexplicably not being able to play fundamental defense, the position has looked even worse than it should be. But, the Shaw for Thornburg trade looks right now very bad. I do wonder how it ends up at the end of the year, whether it's just a Travis Shaw hot streak, and we've seen those before, or if he's kind of blossoming. They tried to sign Trevor Plouffe, right? There were other guys, I'm sure, that they tried to sign. They wanted more depth than they have, and they came up short. And that ultimately falls on Dombrowski, right? If Sandoval's your guy, well, you put all the eggs in that basket. That's you can't put it all on Sandoval. It's on you, Dave Dombrowski.
Absolutely right. So let's continue talking about the offense a little bit here, because I know you mentioned earlier, very high average, top of the league average, but not scoring the runs, not getting the hits when you need them. They're getting plenty of hits, but not at the right time. So what in your eyes is wrong with the offense? Is it a lack of leadership, just a lack of clutch play, a lack of enough players in the right spots? Like what is the reason this team can't score at the right time? Because they score, but it's never when they need it, or it's when the pitching's doing well. It never seems to fit completely right in any game.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of the frustration of the inconsistent. The timing never lines up, right? It does feel that way, except when it does, they are still an above 500 team. You saw them in the final game against Oakland. It did line up plenty at the end, and sometimes it feels like it only comes in bursts. But you can even throw average out the window. The OBP is high, and I believe it's I think it's third in the major. Whatever it is, it's top 5. And that's healthy. That's very good. And that's not a number that can be, at this point of the year, wildly inflated by a couple of games. I don't think. Maybe somebody could really do the math and try to prove me wrong on that. But to me, it says there is an offense here that's working. The slugging percentage has been disappointing, but it's also had an uptick in May. And I think you're going to continue to see an uptick because, let's face it, there should be more power unless you have some. The question comes down to whether there's severe power regression across the lineup. And it's hard to buy into that because what would be causing that? And logically nothing. And I think it's an unfortunate, it's one of those, it's baseball answers, but why aren't the hits lining up timing-wise? Well, I think it's baseball. In April, they had a lot of hits with runners in scoring position. In May, they've been more middle of the pack. So even as the slugging is picked up in May, the timing of those hits has not picked up. And I don't think it's because – could there be an element of putting pressure on themselves more without Ortiz? Yeah, sure. But to kind of say there's one thing that is keeping them from having that quote-unquote big hit doesn't feel – it feels too simplistic. It's just not how the game works. And I think if there's patience here – you will see the hits come at those different times. It's just kind of how the game works, right? You can't always line these things up perfectly, and it creates this frustrating level and type of baseball.
So before I move on, I did want to ask you about David Price, but I do want to follow up on the offense because Hanley Ramirez, to me, he has, 6 homers this year, something like that, and I know he was the 30 guy last year. What do you think the difference is for him? Because I always believed that him playing first base was a big reason why he was so successful. Just seeing that he, was always entrenched in the game. He couldn't really take time off to just sit there. And, I love him goofing off, but playing first base gave him that sense of always being involved. Now he's not really playing first base and he's just DHing because Ortiz is gone. Do you think that's a factor of why Hanley's not hitting the way he did last year? Or is there something else going on?
Well, I think Hanley's a really interesting case. One, he's incredibly important to the lineup. 2, you have this issue with, let's talk about the idea of first base. The narrative at some point did become Hanley Ramirez playing first base helps him hitting. And I'm not sure that's exactly the correlation. I think Hanley was happier playing first base than he was in the outfield, right? Mm-hmm. He had to be. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think a happy Hanley added up to a productive Hanley. I don't necessarily know that first base was what was creating the level of productivity. There seems to be a pretty clear sign from Hanley, and Farrell's acknowledged that Hanley wants to DH more than he wants to play first base.
Yeah, so I kind of knew that.
Theoretically, yeah, and theoretically playing DH then would make Hanley happy. So he should be, his happiness shouldn't be affected, or his hitting shouldn't be affected by the fact that he's playing first base. I think it's really just a matter of keeping. There's almost like this childlike quality to Hanley, where it's a good way to put it. Right?
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
it is.
And there's this backdrop of the shoulders, and how much do the shoulders affect him? Are they affecting him at the plate? How much are they affecting him? Are they really affecting him to the point that he just can't play first base? it is an interesting question. If David Ortiz were still here, if he did not retire, would Hanley Ramirez be on the DL? Would he be useless? Or would he be toughing it out at first base? Did his shoulders really get that much worse between now and last season? And it's hard to answer. It's hard to sit there and say, Hanley, you're exaggerating your shoulder injury. I don't think that's the case. But he's also not a guy who draws the benefit of the doubt throughout his career in terms of being the absolute best teammate. I don't think not playing first base is affecting his hitting. I wonder if the shoulders are. Mm-hmm. And if he's not healthy, you do have. Then the lineup becomes. You probably do need to get a bat. Losing David Ortiz and Hanley Ramirez from last year, and maybe having some regression from Jackie Bradley Jr. Okay, well now you're talking about a significant drop in offense.
We're talking to Evan Drellich. If you don't know the voice of Comcast Sportsnet, Jess, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's funny that we're sitting here talking about how reliant we are on a guy who's so unstable in the mind and has childlike qualities. It's making me a little concerned as we talk about it.
Yeah, right. You don't even think of it like that.
Healthy. If you look at his career, if he's healthy, he's good, right? It's just a matter of whether he's on the field. I believe if you look at the numbers, that bears it out.
Yeah, that's true. So you actually gave me a really good radio segue here, Evan. If you didn't notice it, you talked about someone having childlike qualities and being a baby, and someone throwing mental cases sometimes. Great way to transition to David Price. So he potentially is coming back at some point. He claims he's healthy. He threw like crap at AAA. Couldn't even get out of the second inning or whatever it was. So my question to you about David Price is, one, what are your overall thoughts on him coming back? But like, two, is he coming back anytime soon? I mean, he's got to have at least one more start in AAA if it's even good.
Well, I think at this point, it does appear very likely that he's back soon, barring some sort of health setback. And the question I can't answer is, how good is his stuff? Is he as effective as he could be and should be were this injury not there, pre-injury? I was someone, and I remain someone who's skeptical that he will give much. But if he's really sitting mid-90s and the conservative treatment that they gave him has proven correct, well, hats off to them, and then maybe they do have their guy back. In a very big picture, and I said this going back to spring training, the difference in the season, you lose David Ortiz, you add Chris Sale. Those are 5-win players, right? We're talking about the huge impact players. So you can argue that Sale cancels out Ortiz. Well, then there's Price. And so kind of everything hinges on Price in terms of, are you as good as last year? Even if there's some aggression, could you possibly be better? I don't think there's any way this team ends up better than last year's team. But the importance of Price should not be undersold. And he just had this baby. I think the chip on his shoulder is going to be there. He seems to kind of die down in terms of some of that social media stuff. We'll see if it picks back up. We'll see how he handles the media. I think if he's able to pitch, the public you guys tell me, but I feel like people might be ready to root for him. The kind of like that. Like, what else could go wrong? I guess surgery. But if he's back, are people going to be somehow antagonistic toward him? No, I think he becomes a story of retribution and recovery.
As long as he pitches well.
Well, yeah, my concern with that is if he has one bad start, it's going to be like, all right, I hate this guy again, just right away.
That's all it's going to be.
Important. That's why the idea of bringing him back after one start was very dumb, because even if he was ready, and even if he comes back in that first game was pitching well and some bloops fall in and gives up a home run, it would open the door immediately to questions of whether they rushed him. And if he were to get hurt, really at any point, a couple starts in, then you go, well, did they rush him? So at least one more start is smart. I think you can even say you should have 2 good starts before you say, okay, he's ready. We did everything we should. But I'm not convinced that that's their mindset.
So, Evan, we're going to go over here to another pitcher here, since we're on the pitching track at this point. Drew Pomeranz. First, I want to
How
see
did
if
I know?
you're...
How did you not know if you didn't?
So first, I want your thoughts on just the little thing with Farrell in the dugout. Is that anything? And then secondly, What can you expect from this guy? You know, I've been a defender of him so far. I know a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't like him at all. Obviously, it's maddening that he never gets deep into games because his pitch count's so high. So can he fix that? Is he going to be able to give you what you want, or is he just a waste of space? And then also the Farrell dugout thing.
Well, there's always a lurking question of his health, right? He says that the forearm is healthier than last year. The problem right now is that the guy's a two-pitch pitcher whose mechanics are out of whack. He needs that cutter back, and talking to him on the CSNNE Baseball Show podcast, which you can find on iTunes, he felt like the cutter was tied into the mechanics. And, he said before this most recent start with where he's barking at Farrell that he'd had the best bullpen session he'd had all year. And I guess that didn't end up bearing itself out in the game. One of the things he and I talked about before that start was his laid-back demeanor. And I almost wonder if that was it's going too far to think that like our conversation would in some way influence him. But I wonder if he was trying to show some fire, which he did, right, when he barked at Farrell in the dugout. But that's all on him. And I believe I wasn't there. I left before that game. I was in Oakland, but not for the final game. I believe post-game he essentially acknowledged that it's on him. And it is on him. And you know what? If it was Chris Sale barking at the manager, we'd be sitting here going, yeah, man, Chris Sale never wants to get taken out of the game. We love that fire. But it was obviously a situation where he had to get taken out. He was pulled from the last start because of a health reason. He was 97 pitches. That's not on Farrell. The question you can ask about Farrell there is, well, if this was a different manager, would that have happened in the dugout? And I think there's been enough cases throughout. This happens across the league, not frequently, but often enough that I don't think this is a damning thing for Farrell that he had an unhappy pitcher. I think Pomerantz really is frustrated with himself, and he should be. And I think there's an effective pitcher in there. The problem is, if you're the Red Sox, you really can't have him working through these mechanical problems in games at this point. So if you get Brian Johnson up here and he looks good, well, maybe you put Pomerantz in the bullpen for a time. Maybe there's a way to DL him. But on the other hand of that, is Brian Johnson, is his upside really kind of that much better than the lower end of the spectrum of performance for Pomerantz? There is a good pitcher in Drew Pomerantz. And if you can look at him as your number 5 and not, people got to stop looking at it in the context of Anderson Espinosa, because it's not going to get, it's not a functional way of looking at it.
You can't look at that anymore.
Right. If you get 5 to 6 innings out of Pomerantz, which is clearly all he can give you, well, that's a number 5 starter. And that curveball, if it's right, is a good pitch. So he's not a guy to give up on in any way, but there's a lot of work to get. There's a lot to get straightened out here, and he needs that cutter back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love that you brought up Brian Johnson. I love Brian Johnson. These guys will tell you
she's
that.
Obsessed, Evan. She's obsessed.
For years.
I do. I love that guy. But
did you go to Florida?
No, but I will.
She'll do anything.
I'll do that next year.
Got it.
So kind of switching back to the offensive side, Andrew Benintendi is obviously, as you know, in some kind of weird slump. I know he's young, and I know, he had a really good year last year, so maybe expectations are really high, and he's got that number 1 prospect tag on him, so he's got a lot of pressure on him to live up to these expectations. But just kind of your general thoughts on this little slump he's in. Should we be concerned about him, or is he just going to break out of this?
No, I think it was inevitable, right? Didn't everybody think at some point the guy was going to? I mean, how could he have gone through the season and not had a stretch like this? I think everything earlier in the year stands out, and once you hit May, you're starting to get away from early. But it's the first time we've seen him in the big leagues struggle for any kind of prolonged amount of time, and he did on Saturday have a couple hits, right? Wasn't it Saturday, or was it Friday?
I think it was Friday.
I think it was Friday. I'm a believer in Benintendi, and I think if you watch his swing, you watch his approach, you look at his performance at every level, there's no reason not to be. He fits that profile of a pure hitter, and I think those are the guys you kind of believe will have the easiest time getting out of a slump. And he's a confident kid, and he's not my worry about the Red Sox. I think it's just a natural thing that he'll have another slump at some point this year. Hopefully for the Red Sox it's not as pronounced, but that's kind of been part of this problem here. Is all Mitch Moreland disappeared. Right now he's kind of resurfacing. Bogarts got really hot. Bradley was incredibly cold. It's been a little bit of extremes that have kind of added up to mediocrity.
All right, Evan, one last thing, kind of Red Sox related. So a lot of things are going weird around like the league. See the Mets having a bad year. The Cubs are basically at 500. So coming back to the AL East here, the Yankees are in first place at 26-16. Obviously, Red Sox are 22-21 as of right now. Are the Red Sox really not this far behind the Yankees? Are the Yankees this good? Can they keep it up? Like, what do you make of the division so far as we come here? Like about a quarter away.
I mean, you mentioned the Cubs. It's like, I don't know what the mood is in Chicago, but are they freaking out about the Cubs in the same way that people here? It's like,
they have the same record
I don't know.
as us.
They same second.
Yeah.
Did they give them 100-something years so they win a World Series? Like, come on.
Right, and I tweeted, you look back at the standings from this time a year ago, I think the White Sox were in first place. How'd that work out? Anyway.
True.
I was on the Yankees bandwagon a little bit going into the year. I picked them, not that picks matter, but I did pick them to win a wild card spot, and it was a question of how quick those kids develop. But what I went back to was how they came into Fenway last September. They had that 4-game series, and I think the first game of that series was when Hanley hit that, I want to say it was a walk-off grand slam. But the Yankees had a chance to, I believe, catch the Red Sox or pull with them very close had they swept at Fenway in September. They were in it. So that late run that Sanchez helped them make wasn't something to be taken lightly. And Judge was not impressive to this level, but I mean, why wouldn't you believe in Aaron Judge at this point? I think I believe in the Yankees more than I believe in the Orioles. But to me, the division was always set up to be close. I don't think you were ever going to see one of these teams pull away. I think the Red Sox got a little weaker from last year. I think the Blue Jays got a little weaker, and the Orioles, the question was, what are you going to get from Bundy? What are you going to get from Gausman? Because they had the power. And the Yankees got a little better. So you basically got 4 teams, 2 of them worse, 2 of them better. To sit here and tell you I think the Yankees will win the division, I don't quite think that. I think the Red Sox are probably still the best team in the division, but David Price is going to be the X factor here, which I hate X factors because it's like, well, what if Dustin Pedroia gets hurt tomorrow? Well, that's an X factor too, but assuming everything else kind of stays the same, whether the Red Sox are a wild card team or division winner, to me, might just come down to Price.
Yeah, honestly, and that scares the living crap out of me, even though he's usually good in the regular season. So who knows? Maybe it'll just take to get to the playoffs, and then he'll crap his pants again.
His final 28 starts last year, he had a 3.39 ERA, right? He became so easy to crap on, but like at the end of the day, the numbers were there. He gave up too many home runs. His fastball command wasn't good enough, but he was a huge part of that late season run when they actually did pull away with the division. The early start screwed him. The 6-something ERA in mid-May screwed the fan base perception.
Which he's never pitched well in April or May like ever in his career. So it's kind of, we took it with a grain of salt for what it really was, but we kind of, myself included, we all jumped on him. So I guess whatever. But
so did I.
Yeah, everyone did. I think you really couldn't.
Easy to do.
It was very easy to pick a target in David Price last year, and it is still now because he hasn't pitched a game this season. So hopefully he pitches better when he comes back. Evan Drellich, Comcast Sportsnet. Appreciate it, Evan. Of course, don't be a stranger. We appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks, Evan.
All right.
Yeah.
Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Evan Drellich as well. Last name is Drellich. If you don't know, I always want to say Drellich just because, but it's not. It's Drellich. Good stuff from him, guys. That was good. Yeah, definitely kind of got us down to what we need to talk about. Biggest takeaway is, for me at least, is the fact that David Price is an X factor, but he hates X factors, and that the Yankees are actually good. And it's unfortunate to hear that, but the Yankees are good.
Yeah, David Price being an X Factor definitely scares me.
I just always go back to his stupid comment about the rubber duck and the duck above water and underneath. It scares the crap out of me. But either way, Mr. Drellick himself is brought to you by our good friends at SeatGeek, the ticketing app, the smartest and easiest way to buy and sell sports and concert tickets. You can get a $20 rebate on your first purchase by downloading the free SeatGeek app to your phone. Go to the settings tab and click add a promo code and enter the code Garden Report, all one word, for a $20 rebate, and go to SeatGeek. Of course, they'll be able to tell you who sent you, that sort of thing. Celtics are going to be in a game 5 at home to figure that out, so you can buy tickets for that. Red Sox are back home this week, so you can go to a Red Sox game as well. A lot going on this week, but we can't do a show without doing a Jess Thomas recap. So a big shout out to Evan for coming on. Jess, this week wasn't great. We were completely wrong, pretty much, predicting everything. We almost were 100% wrong on the A's series. Take us through it, Jess, and kind of nitpick how bad this week really was.
Yeah, we'll go through it a little quicker than normal just because, obviously, we just had a guest on for a while, which was fantastic. So I won't drone on and on and on and on about the games, especially because they weren't very good. But we'll start with the first series, which was good, against the St. Louis Cardinals, a little 2-game baby miniseries, which I don't really like because they're there and then they're gone. You're going to get to know the team. I don't like it. But my feelings aside about it, Tuesday started the week well with a 6-3 win over the Cardinals following that horrendous loss 2 days before to the Rays. This matchup on Tuesday was Eduardo Rodriguez against Lance Lynn, and they both pitched well, but Eduardo Rodriguez got the better of it. He got the win, giving up 3 runs in 6 innings. Lance Lynn gave up 4 runs, only 2 earned in 6 innings. He did end up getting the loss because the bullpen was not able to hold the Red Sox down. Boston got 2 runs early, both on home runs. Mookie Betts solo homer in the first, Jackie Bradley Jr. solo homer in the second. But then the Cardinals came back and took the lead in the third. Dexter Fowler RBI double, Tommy Pham sac fly, Matt Carpenter sac fly, and it was 3-2 St. Louis. The Red Sox took the lead back in the fifth, highlighted by a Dustin Pedroia RBI single to make it 4-3. And then, as I said, in the late innings, in the eighth, the Sox got 2 more runs on some sacrifice flies and some errors. The Cardinals had 3 errors in addition to their 3 runs, so not a good day for them in the field. The Red Sox only had 6 hits, as did the Cardinals, but they got the 3 extra runs. And I think really the story of this one, and really the story of the season so far, which I'm so happy to say that I'm wrong because I love being wrong when I say something negative about someone. And we were all wrong about Eduardo Rodriguez. He's been awesome. He's been the steady force behind Chris Sale, that number 2 guy so far in terms of getting wins, quality starts, and good outings. And once again in this game, he was the constant again, and he pitched really well.
He did, and it's nice to see because, like you said, we were all wrong. We were very negative and cautious, I guess you could say, too. But to see him go out there, pitch well, and just kind of own that mound, and it just makes him look so good. And, I'm glad that we were wrong because, like you said, Jess, I like being wrong when I don't have a good feeling about something. So I really like this, and I'm liking what I see, and I'm liking the confidence and just the control and the strikeouts. And, of course, I love the strikeouts. And overall, it's just refreshing.
Yeah, you can't complain when you're wrong if it's a good thing. Like, obviously no one wants to be wrong, but when it's a successful game and and he looked good, you can't complain.
Yeah, he was great. It's very encouraging. He hasn't been mentally weak. He hasn't been any of the things that we've crapped on him for, so it's been real nice to see. Which brings us into Wednesday's game against the Cardinals, and it could have gone either way for sure. It didn't look good for a while because the Sox were down 4-0 after 2 innings, which was ugly. This game was started by Rick Porcello and Mike Leake. And Porcello, after those 4 runs, he was better. He got the job done. He ended up going through 6 innings, got his customary 6 strikeouts, but he did give up the 4 runs. Fortunately, the Red Sox offense bailed him out late in the game after they were down 4-0. In the top of the 7th inning, Jackie Bradley hit his 2nd home run in as many days to make it 4-2. That was a 2-run homer. And then the Red Sox came back, tied it up in the 8th with a Xander Bogaerts RBI triple, and then Andrew Benintendi drove him in right afterwards with a sac fly. That tied it at 4. And little did we know we'd have a long night of baseball because this game went to 13 innings. There was 4 4 straight scoreless innings included the 9th, 3 scoreless extra innings. The bullpens were good. The Red Sox got scoreless outings from Robbie Ross Jr., Matt Barnes, Joe Kelly, Robbie Scott, Craig Kimbrell, Heath Hembry, Fernando Abad, and Ben Taylor. None of them gave up runs after Porcello for the last 7 innings, which was awesome. And the Red Sox won it in the top of the 13th inning on a Chris Young RBI single to drive in Mitch Moreland after he had gotten on base with a double, his 16th, which is still the league leader. So great win in extra innings. I love not knowing how to pronounce the guy's name who gave it up. His name is Sam Tui.
That's on his jersey. Fa la la la.
That's how I say it.
It's Tuivaillala. So I honestly have no idea how to say it. I heard them say it like 20 times, and I still was like, "How do you say that again?" So,
say it slower this time. What did you say?
Okay. Either way, he got the loss, which was great. So we liked roughing him up and not knowing how to say his name. Ben Taylor got his first career save. Fernando Abad got the win. 2 scoreless innings. Really nice stuff from him. So this was great bullpen, timely hitting in the 13th when you needed it. And to get a road win in that many innings, I feel like it doesn't happen very much.
No, and this is what this team has needed bullpen-wise. Like, this is what they've missed. Like, these are the games that they haven't been able to win this year when their starting rotation has failed them. The bullpen still pitched like crap. So I don't think this is a consistent thing with this bullpen. I think that adding Carson Smith just bumps everyone back an inning. He's apparently throwing off a mound, so he could be back sooner rather than later. That helps. Obviously, we could help with the deadline as well. But this is what I thought was going to be that win that defined and kind of propelled this team into what they needed to be. And then the A's series happened, which we'll talk about.
Whoops.
But this was I'm sure you two had the same feeling. Watching this game, you're like, crap, okay, this might be that win. You sweep the Cardinals, who were in first, who are a good team. This might be what propels them to finally get out of it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And especially kind of after the game, too, when Rick Porcello said, who cares about how I performed? Let's talk about the bullpen. And kind of like that drive and that kind of fire, I was like, yes, this is exactly what this team needed. It's going to propel them to be destroy the A's, and obviously we're all very wrong about that, but it was a very good win against a very good team, and to come back and win it the way they did, it was a perfect setup for something like that.
Yeah, it was frustrating because obviously, you guys both predicted the sweep of St. Louis, which very, very good job from you guys. I picked 1 out of 2, so when they won both, I was like, this is it. We're winning some games. We won 3 out of 4. Life's good. And then Oakland happened. On Thursday, Hector Velasquez happened, really. On Thursday, this game was ugly. He was bad. He gave up a ton of bombs. He gave up home runs to Jed Lowry, Chris Davis, Chad Pinder. 2 of them were 2-run homers. And the annoying thing is that the Sox got up 2-0 in the first inning for him. So they're like, hey, here's 2 runs for you, sir. Go out there and get them. And then he gives up 3 right back on 2 home runs. And then Moreland's like, all right, I'll help you out. I hit a home run in the 4th inning to tie the game. And then Velasquez is like, yeah, whatever, man. Half inning later, gives up 3 more runs, including the 2-run Pinder homer. So he was just bad. He only lasted 5 innings, which is longer than he should have lasted because he could have been out there way earlier than that. He gave up 9 hits and 6 runs, 4 strikeouts. Sonny Gray gave up 3 runs in 6 innings. He settled down after the first inning. He was very good, especially after the Moreland home run. For the last couple of innings he pitched, the A's scored 2 more in the 6th inning to make it 8-3, and they won 8-3. Obviously the story of this one was Velasquez and the fact that he's clearly just not major league ready.
Nope, and I think, you said it perfectly. We all watched that game. We all saw how horrible he was, and it's a shame because, I kind of thought this going into the game that, he did pitch well in AAA. We've seen this before. They pitch well in AAA, and whether they're not big league ready or whether they just can't find that transition where they can't pitch well in the majors for whatever reason, and that became abundantly clear, and it became clear quickly. Like I said, he gave up so many home runs, and it was just absolutely ugly. It
showed how bad they need David Price, because they cannot find a 5th starter, and he should have been out in the 1st or 2nd inning. This is the problem the team has had to lack the consistency. They win a couple games like the ones in St. Louis, and then your pitching can't hold up, and then you're forced to throw this schmuck out there, and you get screwed. As much as David Price, we all crap on him, he's very important to this team. When we all came into the year, we said, oh, look, you have the big three in pitching. It's Porcello, Price, and Sale, and you're going to see how good this team can be. Well, when you lose one of them, now what do you do? Especially because of the injuries you've had, Stephen Wright's out for the year, things like that. David Price is a huge importance, and you're seeing it every time they roll out some schmuck in the 5th spot. Now they're skipping his start this time, and Porcello, Sale, and Pomeranz are getting the Texas series because of it.
Yeah, it's funny how it seemed like we were fine for pitching, and then injury here, injury there, and then you can't even find a guy who can barely get through 5 innings in the 5th spot, which is obviously concerning. So that's a shame.
And it's funny because, beginning of the season, we're like, oh, who's going to be the odd man out when Price comes back? This could be like a really big discussion. Now it's like, who are we going to fill this spot until David Price comes back? Like, we have no one. Like, send help. Like, it's just so funny how, a month and a half can change so much. And just thinking
we were talking about Erod possibly being the odd man out.
I know, and now look, he's like, screw you guys, I'm going to show you that, and which I'm pleasantly surprised by, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like I said, so much can change in that month and a half. Where our first regular season show, we were like so excited about this rotation because like we have a plethora of pitchers, and now it's like SOS.
Yep, that's how it works. You never know what's going to happen. It's a great thing about sports, or the bad thing, whichever one you want to call it. So let's move on to Friday. This was really the ball squeezer of the series. This one squeezed your nuts, even if you don't have any.
That's how bad it was.
Squeezed mine, all right.
Thank you. Because this was a very winnable game. The Red Sox got up 2-0. Mitch Moreland hit another home run, a 2-run homer in the 4th inning to make it 2-0 off of Kendall Graveman. This was a Chris Sale game. Chris Sale got a lead, and he gave it up slowly. He didn't go up any runs till the 5th. Mark Canha had and then the Red Sox couldn't score any more runs for Sale, even though they had 10 hits in the game, but only 2 runs were able to score. A lot of wasted opportunities. Sale ended up going 7 innings, as he usually does. 7 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 10 strikeouts, so another great start for him, but more lack of run support for him, which hadn't happened the last few starts, but it's back now, and it's just not capitalizing with guys in position to score, which brought us into the 9th inning when Craig Kimbrell came in, nearly gave up a walk-off home run, which was caught. A great catch by Jackie Bradley Jr., robbing Ryan Healy of a RBI. Yeah, it was a great catch. Healy couldn't believe it. Kimbrell was very thrilled that he saved the game. Unfortunately, 1 inning later, Heath Hembree came in, and Mark Canha decided to come into the box and absolutely destroy pitch to left field. Great swing, way gone. No Jackie Bradley Jr. in left or in the stands. So that was that. It was over quickly right after that, and pretty demoralizing after Kimbrell almost blew the game and Jackie saved it. You lose a Chris Sale start, you give up a walk-off home run. This was the winnable game of the first 3. So like I said, I'm naming this game the ball squeezer game.
Yeah, and seriously, when that first attempt at a homer like went off the bat of Kimbrell, like off the ball and everything, like I didn't realize it was that far. Like I was like, oh, good, they won the game. It's a casual pop up. And then all of a sudden, I see Jackie Bradley sprinting to the wall. And I'm like, what is he doing? I was like, oh crap, that ball's going out. Crap, they're gonna lose. And he caught the ball, and I'm like, did he catch that? And I freaked out because I will tell you, it was quiet in my house. My now fiance was already sleeping, so like I was trying not to kick and scream in our room, and then all of a sudden, I was like, wait, oh my God, he caught that. This game's not over. I thought they were going to win as soon as he caught it.
Yeah, I thought that kind of, like when they won the card series, I kind of thought like that kind of catch is going to at least like solidify that they were going to win the game, and kind of spark that too, because that's obviously something, if your adrenaline's probably pumping, you're all so excited that, one of your players just saved the game.
Jackie Bradley wasn't that excited.
No, I mean, I would have been rolling around in the grass if I caught that, but it was such a disappointing loss, and it was, it kind of takes away from, Jackie Bradley Jr. we know has been struggling at the plate from time to time this season, and for him to kind of come up big, huge in a game like that, and just to have it kind of stripped from him after, just totally sucks.
And honestly, guys, like that is why you deal with the lack of offense. It's for the defense like that. And obviously it's gotten better. Like, I know we were talking about potentially, like, you put him on the bench, yada, yada. It's not that big of a deal if he keeps playing defense like that.
Yeah, and he's hit a couple home runs, which has obviously helped the cause. But this game was just crap because it was just like, you win it, and I mean, nothing says they would, but, keeping it tied or not giving up the runs when Sale's pitching, whatever. You at that point, if you win the game, you've won 4 out of 6, which is good. And then, as a result, you lose it. Now you've lost your momentum. You've lost 2 in a row. Now you've lost 3 out of 5. And then it continues with another loss. It's a very big momentum shift, which is, that's sports for you. That's baseball for you. So it brought us into Saturday, which is another 8-3 final. This game was frustrating. Drew Pomeranz started it. Didn't pitch that poorly, but as we talked about with Evan, only lasted 4 innings and 97 pitches, which means that the bullpen had to come in and, well, in Ben Taylor's case, stink up the joint. He got no outs, gave up 3 hits and 4 runs, 2 of them home runs, and then Noe Ramirez came in, at least gave the team some innings with 3 innings, but he also gave up 2 home runs for 2 runs. So the combination of them gave up 6 of the 8 runs, and it was ugly. And I mean, there's really not much to say about it. It was bad. It was close. It was close for a while, and then once the 5th inning happened with the 3 home runs, you can forget about it. Jed Lowry hit one in the 6th inning to make them have 4 home runs. So that was just an 8-3 loss, and this one you can hang on the bullpen because 2 young guys who were just not ready for this game.
You always forget about Jed Lowry. But this game was good for a while. You thought, okay, they're keeping it close. You might be able to pull this out. And then just the crap hit the fan real quick. And it was a horrible game after that. And I turned it off because it was just so bad.
Yeah, it got ugly quick. And I knew after that inning, I was like, ugh, this is not going to end in any way, shape, or form the way that I want it to. And
yeah, it was one of those games where you're just like, ugh, bad taste. Too many home runs. And that's what the A's did the whole series, was hit home runs and just blast the Sox right out of the park, even though they're a terrible offensive team. Doesn't make any sense. Fortunately, the offense went in the Red Sox favor in the final game of the series on Sunday. Eduardo Rodriguez, Ace Rodriguez, back on the mound, pitched 8 innings, gave up 3 runs, had 8 strikeouts. He was great again. 98 pitches through 8 innings, very solid. And the offense decided to show up, which was awesome. They scored 12 runs. Granted, 5 of those were in the 9th inning, but even before the 9th inning, they had a 7-3 lead, and they just went nuts in the 9th with some Hanley Ramirez, Jackie Bradley Jr., Christian Vasquez, Devin Marrero action. They all had RBIs in that inning. 3 hits for Vasquez in the game, 2 for Bradley, 3 for Ramirez also, 2 RBI for Moreland, 2 hits for Pedroia. So that was just a really good offensive game. And, it was great to get all of those runs, and it was very satisfying and a great win to end the series. But it's like, man, why don't you get some of those runs the rest of the 3 games? Spread them out a little bit.
Yep, exactly. And, of course, it's always nice to see double-digit runs. But like you said, why couldn't we spread those out? Because we needed them, especially coming off a sweep of a series. You want to go into that with more than 1 win. It was just... like, great way to end it. Great to see, but still, why couldn't they have done this throughout their whole series?
And this is what Evan mentioned too. It's hard. It sucks to see how the offense is so in spurts and it's not consistent. And we kind of talked about it too, last week. It's just the team isn't consistent everywhere at the same time. It's when the offense is good, the pitching's bad. When the pitching finally figures it out, the offense can't score runs. And then this game, it felt like they were just kind of sucker punching the A's because how mad they were they lost the other 3 games.
Right, because they realized at that point, wow, we should have maybe won any games in this series.
Should have tried a little harder.
Yeah,
yep.
Ugly. So, I mean, I really don't want to give the MVP to anybody because really nobody played that well because the team as a whole... Yeah, I mean, you can always give it to Chris Sale.
Why not?
Betts had 2 home runs.
When else fails, just give it to Chris Sale.
But he didn't win the game that he pitched. Give it to Erod. We're giving it to Erod.
Fine, Erod. I like Erod. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so Erod MVP, 2 and 4 week. 3 and 4 week. Sorry, 3 and 3 week. Take 3.
Simple math.
Yeah, but so obviously overall it wasn't a terrible week because they got wins at the beginning and the end, but losing 3 games in a row to a last place team, not the direction you want to be going in. So better luck next week.
Yeah, and we'll make our predictions in a minute here, but it's just it was not a good week, and we were all completely wrong. So, we obviously have had a good show. Evan came on and did his thing, and we talked a little recap here, but before we touch on the predictions of what we want to talk about here, definitely one thing I want to make sure we hit on, because it was intriguing to me to hear this. Apparently the Red Sox have been scouting Todd Frazier of the White Sox. And so, guys, I want to know what you think about this, because I don't know if it's the right move. I don't know who else we have to trade if we wanted to get Todd Frazier, but just what do you guys think? I'm not a fan of it, but what do you guys think of the Todd Frazier reports of him being scouted by the Red Sox?
I mean, right now it's just one of those rumors thrown out there. I almost kind of think it's a panic move, because it can go one of two ways. It's either a panic move, or they know something about Panda that they're not saying right now, or either that they don't have faith in him that he's going to do well at third, or his injury is more serious than we may think it is if they're scouting Frazier. But I don't think anything's going to come of it. But you never know with Dombrowski. You never know what he's going to do. But I obviously third base is a huge problem right now, but I think they need to let Sandoval come back and kind of, figure it out and play there and see if he can get out of that slump that he was in before he got injured.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what faith they have in Sandoval, if that is possible. I mean, I love to get him for his home runs. He's a good power hitter. Average is always pretty poor, and I think the averages we have at third base are poor enough, so I don't like it in terms of that. I hope Sandoval can just come back and be good, but hey, if they feel it's necessary to get a player there, I mean, the guy's hit over 20 home runs several times in his career, so I wouldn't be opposed to it for sure. I would like if his average was a little better, but, how can you be picky with the third baseman we have? If
his average isn't okay, I almost would rather just not bother, because, in my opinion, who are you going to trade at this point? And, Marrero's been okay. You have guys in the system who could potentially help you out. Overall, I just think there's better options than trading more of your prospects to Chicago to give them one of the best farm systems in baseball, which you've already done to get Chris Sale, just to get a rental third baseman.
Yeah, it does almost make sense to just not do anything, especially if Sandoval will come back. Marrero has slid in there, and he has played pretty well. Obviously, could give you more offense, but, for the moment, he's fine. So, I doubt they'll get Frazier, but he has hit a lot of home runs. 35 one year, 40 another year. Don't sleep on that.
No, you could use some power in the lineup, that's for sure. All right, it's that time of the week before we get out of here for the week. Let's do some predictions. We were obviously completely wrong last week. This week you have 3 against Texas and 3 against the Mariners, all home. They're back at Fenway. Starting with Texas, I'm going to go Lauren. What do you got?
For Texas, I'm going winning 2 out of 3. I've been very positive every week, and no matter how crappy they play, I still remain optimistic. So, I think being back at home will be good. I'll be there tomorrow, so I'm going to bring them a little bit of luck.
You're always there. Stop. You're always there.
I've only been to one game. You gotta call.
I haven't been to a game yet this year. And you've been to 7.
Yeah, tomorrow will be my 7th. So.
I was a shot in the dark.
Yep.
That's how you knew.
I had no idea. I was just guessing.
Yep,
that's
good
crazy.
Guess. And no, I think they're 2 out of 3. You have Porcello and Sale going for 2 of those games, so I think that's a huge thing right there. I mean, I just think that this team's gonna figure it out eventually, and why not do it right now when you're home at Fenway against Texas?
Yeah, right now. That's it. Yeah, I got the same winning 2 out of 3. It's funny, you guys have been more positive than me the last couple of weeks. And you know what? I'm not predicting well this year, and I don't like it, and I'm concerned about it, and I need to turn it around. So it's time. I'm going to be positive. When positive things happen that are good. So I'm going to go positive again. I'm going to win 2 out of 3 from Texas. Like Lauren said, time to win. You're 22-21. You got some home games. You got some good pitchers going. Time to figure it out.
Last year I was negative all the time, and they seemed to do better than I thought, so I'm going to go negative. They're going to lose 2 out of 3 to Texas. We just got to get back on our normal train. We got to come back to normal. I have the worst week here, prediction-wise, so I have them losing 2 out of 3 to Texas. I think they'll win the Chris Sale game. Honestly, who knows, because he never gets run support very rarely. So, but with Porcello and Sale both going this series, I count you win one of those games, and then obviously Pomeranz is pitching, so you're just kind of screwed there. So that's what I have. Losing 2 out of 3 to Texas, and quickly I have them winning 2 out of 3 to the Mariners. I think that coming off a Texas series, I think the Mariners are meh. And I think there's got to be some success on this home stand, considering they did come off so bad against Oakland. Now Hanley can be back in the lineup consistently, and I think you go 3-3 overall. This is what this team has been. I don't think that changes much. 3-3 week for me.
I'm going winning 2 out of 3 from the Mariners as well. They're like you said, Jared, they're a mid team, but we thought Oakland was a bad team, and look at what happened there. So,
are we seeing the King? Are we seeing Felix?
I don't know. I haven't looked that far into it.
They might not even know.
No, maybe not.
This is true.
Still a couple days away. But I have a nice 4-2 week. I feel that's kind of a safe bet. I did want to pick that they would sweep them, but judging from how the Oakland series ended, that's what's really keeping me from saying that. But 2 out of 3 from Seattle for a 4-2 week for me.
Well, I am going to sweep of the Mariners. So like I said, I'm going more positive. I got a 5-1 week, which I haven't predicted much of, and it hasn't happened anyway because they really haven't played that well. But here's the difference. We wanted them to sweep Oakland or take 2 out of 4, but Oakland, well, now with these wins, is 14-9 at home. Here's the difference. Mariners are on the road. They're 7-16 on the road. That's not good. They're 20-25 overall. Pretty ugly. So you know what? It's time. It's like those Oakland series in the past year where you're like, well, we want to sweep them. Well, we did those times, and not this time against Oakland, but we got Seattle Mariners. They're garbage. We're sweeping them. 5-1 week. Mark it down. I'm back on the winning track here, I hope. Because
we're putting everything back into normal here. So there you go. Back to normal.
Doing our best for them.
I am the most negative on the show again. Not surprising, finally. I got a 3-3 week. Lauren's got 4-2. Jess back to the Mr. Positivity himself. 5-1 for the week. Hope to God.
It works, I swear.
I pray Jess is right because the team needs it big time. They need a big week, and we both thought, all 3 of us thought this was going to be the way it happened last week. Didn't take advantage of it, but now they're home. So hope you guys are right and hope I'm wrong, but I have to go off of what I'm seeing and basically the entire season. So, but, things might change. So there's the end of the show. A big shout out again to Evan Drellich of Comcast Sportsnet for joining us earlier on. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Evan Drellich if you don't already. Check him out on the Comcast Sportsnet, the baseball show podcast, like he quickly teased here on the show. So, of course, you can check him out if you haven't seen him already. He's new to covering the Sox this year. Second sit around. It's been good so far, and obviously loved having him on. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at RedSox_beat. Facebook is, of course, Red Sox Beat Podcast. Don't forget to follow CLNS on Twitter at CLNS Media. Facebook, same thing, as well as, of course, the free CLNS app on iOS and Android. Listen to all the shows across the network, not just ours, but of course we appreciate you listening to us on iTunes, Stitcher, the whole 9 yards, wherever you may listen. Of course, we're brought to you by our good friends at ZipRecruiter, Audible, and of course SeatGeek. Don't forget the Garden Report, $20 rebate as well. As the Red Sox are home, so you can take advantage of that and go watch the team. Celtics clinched another home game because they somehow beat the Cavs. So a lot of stuff going on in the city this week, so don't forget to use the promo code. That being said, we'll be back next week talking more Red Sox baseball, hopefully in Jess's eyes, a 5-1 week. For Jess Thomas and Lauren Campbell, I am Jared Skelly. Talk to you next week.